A single heartbeat on a monitor can change the fate of an entire hospital. For charge nurse Maya Chen, saving the life of a heavily scarred, unrecognizable John Doe wasn't a choice, it was an oath. But when hospital politics collided with morality, she found herself stripped of her badge and escorted out by security, branded a liability by the very people sworn to save lives. The administrators thought the problem was solved, the silence restored. That silence shattered 4 days later when a convoy of black government SUVs screeched to a halt outside the emergency bay, and a battle-hardened Special Forces colonel stepped out with one terrifying question that would bring the hospital administration to its knees. "Where is my nurse?" The rain in Boston didn't wash things clean, but it just made the neon lights of the emergency bay at Metro General Hospital blur into streaks of blood red and cautionary yellow. Heavy drops hammered against the reinforced glass doors, each one a reminder that outside the city was drowning. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed with artificial brightness, sterile, cold, unforgiving. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, the graveyard shift in name and spirit, the overnight hours when hope went to die and miracles were expected anyway. Maya Chen adjusted the collar of her scrubs. They were blue, standard issue, but tonight they felt heavy, like they carried the weight of every patient she'd saved, every patient she'd lost. She'd been on her feet for 14 hours straight, no breaks, no lunch. Her feet throbbed in her worn-out sneakers. The rubber soles, long since compressed flat from endless miles, walked on linoleum floors. But her eyes, sharp, dark and unrelenting, scanned the intake board with mechanical precision. Maya wasn't just a nurse. At 32, she was the backbone of Metro General's Level 1 Trauma Center. The person everyone turned to when the worst came through those doors. She knew the rhythm of life and death better than she knew her own heartbeat. She could read a monitor from across the room, could tell you a patient's chances just from the sound of their breathing. "Coffee, Maya?" She turned to see young nurse Jordan holding out a lukewarm styrofoam cup. The cup was white with a brown ring staining the rim. Coffee that had been sitting in the break room pot since 6 p.m. Jordan was fresh out of nursing school, 23 years old, still optimistic, still believed every patient could be saved, still shaking when the codes came in, still learning that sometimes your best isn't enough. "Thanks, Jordan," Maya said, taking a sip. It tasted like burnt toast mixed with battery acid, but the caffeine was necessary. The bitter liquid burned down her throat, a familiar comfort in the middle of chaos. "Quiet night so far," Jordan observed, green eyes scanning the nearly empty waiting room. "That worries me." "Maybe the city is sleeping," Jordan suggested with a smile, hope still alive in that young voice. "The city never sleeps, Jordan," Maya replied, her tone gentle but firm. "It just reloads." As if on cue, the red phone at the trauma desk screamed, that distinctive sound, the one that made every nurse's spine go rigid. The sound cut through the low hum of the emergency room like a knife through flesh. Maya slammed the coffee down. The liquid sloshed over the rim. Her demeanor shifted instantly from tired colleague to field general. She grabbed the receiver before the second ring finished. "Metro General," Chen speaking. The voice on the other end was crackling, panicked. A paramedic who'd seen something bad. "Inbound ETA, 2 minutes. Male, roughly 35, no ID. Massive blunt force trauma, multiple GSWs, gunshot wounds. He was dumped outside a fire station. Anonymous drop. He's coding. We've shocked him twice already." "Copy that," Maya said, her voice steady as stone. "Iron control. Prepare trauma 1. She hung up and shouted orders across the ER. "Jordan, get the crash cart." "Dr. Webb, we have a critical inbound, GSW, unstable, multiple traumas, doctor." Our Marcus Webb looked up from his tablet, slowly, like he was being interrupted from something important. He was leaning against the counter, scrolling through a real estate app, looking at vacation properties in the Hamptons. Webb was the kind of doctor who looked good in a brochure but vanished when the real work started. Tall, expensive haircut, perfect teeth, empty eyes. He was the nephew of a board member, a fact he mentioned at least twice a shift, sometimes 3 times if he'd had a particularly easy day. GSW, probably a gangbanger dumped by his friends. Webb sighed, barely moving. Stabilize him and ship him to county if he hasn't got insurance, Chen. I'm not spending my night digging bullets out of a drug dealer. He's a human being, Doctor, Maya snapped, already moving towards the bay doors. And he's dying. On the ambulance bay doors hissed open, pneumatic seals releasing, letting in a gust of cold rain and the smell of diesel fuel mixed with something metallic. Blood. The paramedics rushed the gurney in, their uniforms soaked through, their faces grim. The kind of grim that said they'd done everything they could, and it still might not be enough. The man on the stretcher was a wreck. He was covered in mud and blood, dirt caked into open wounds, his clothes shredded, torn apart by violence. But even under the grime, Maya saw something unusual, something that didn't fit the narrative of gang violence or drug deal gone wrong. He wasn't wearing street clothes, he was wearing tactical pants, the kind you buy at military surplus stores, but higher quality, ripstop fabric, reinforced knees, and his boots, heavy, worn, professional grade. Not the kind a street dealer could afford, not the kind anyone wore unless they needed them for serious work. He lost a pulse twice on the way, the medic shouted over the noise. We got him back both times, but he's threading, barely hanging on. BP's in the basement. Get him to Trauma 1 now, Maya commanded. No hesitation. She jumped onto the gurney rail, her worn sneakers finding purchase on the wet metal, starting compressions as they ran down the corridor. Under her hands, the man's chest felt like a cage of broken ribs, bones shifting under pressure. She could feel the damage, massive trauma. This man had been through hell. She looked at his face. It was swollen, beaten beyond recognition, masked by a thick beard and dried blood that had crusted into dark patches. His eyes were closed, bruised purple and black. She couldn't tell what color they were, couldn't tell if he was young or old underneath the damage, but she could tell one thing. He was fighting, still fighting to live. They burst into the trauma room. Maya moved like lightning, hooking up leads, checking lines. "Where is Dr. Webb?" Maya yelled, her eyes glued to the monitor. The heart rate was erratic. Ventricular tachycardia. He's going to arrest again. I'm here! I'm here! Webb strolled in, snapping on latex gloves with agonizing slowness. "Lower your voice, Nurse Chen. He needs a chest tube now," Maya said, ignoring his tone. "Breath sounds are absent on the right." "Let me assess before you start diagnosing," Webb sneered. He listened to the chest for a half second. Fine. Tension, pneumothorax, set up for a tube. Just as Webb picked up the scalpel, the emergency room doors swung open again. But this time, it wasn't a medic. It wasn't a patient. It was Administrator Victoria Hart, flanked by 2 security guards in crisp uniforms and a frantic-looking young man in a silk suit that probably cost more than Maya made in a month. Victoria Hart was the Director of Operations, 52 years old, former hospital accountant who'd climbed the administrative ladder by cutting costs and pleasing donors. She was a woman who viewed patients as spreadsheets, profit in black, loss in red, every decision calculated by dollars instead of lives. Her heels clicked on the linoleum floor, an expensive sound, out of place in a trauma bay. "Dr. Webb," Victoria's voice was shrill, sharp enough to cut through the organized chaos of the trauma room. "Stop what you are doing, immediately." Webb paused, the scalpel hovering inches from the dying man's chest, caught between duty and politics. The hesitation spoke volumes. Victoria, I'm in the middle of a procedure, a life-saving procedure. We have a code VIP, Victoria announced, her tone brooking no argument, gesturing to the young man in the silk suit. But this is Ethan Caldwell. His father is Senator Richard Caldwell, our biggest donor, the man who funded the new cardiac wing, the man who sits on the hospital board, the man whose name is on a building. Ethan has injured his wrist playing tennis at the club, and he is in severe pain. He demands immediate attention from our best physician. Maya froze, her hands still on the dying man's chest. She looked at the John Doe on the table, blood pressure dropping by the second, oxygen saturation at 75% and falling.
His skin turning dusky, minutes away from brain damage, from death. And then at the spoiled man holding his wrist in the doorway, standing, breathing, complaining about a tennis injury while a man died 10 feet away. "You have got to be kidding me," Maya whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. "Dr. Webb," Victoria said, stepping into the sterile field in her heels, "contaminating everything, breaking every protocol. The senator is on the phone right now, waiting. He wants the best attending physician to look at his son immediately. Not in 10 minutes, not after you're done, now." Webb looked at the John Doe on the table. Dirty, bloody, likely indigent. No insurance, no family, no one to sue if things went wrong, no one to complain, no one to remember his name. Then he looked at Victoria and the promise of political favor.
Our career advancement, the senator's gratitude, a recommendation, maybe a position at a better hospital, private practice. His future suddenly more important than someone else's life. He dropped the scalpel into the tray. The metal clattered, a sound of abandonment. "Nurse Chen," Webb said, pulling off his gloves, already walking away. "Finish stabilizing this one. I'm going to attend to Mr. Caldwell." Maya felt a cold rage ignite in her stomach, a burning anger that started in her core and spread through her chest. "You can't leave. This man has a collapsed lung and internal bleeding. If you leave, he dies. Not might die, will die. He's a John Doe, Chen," Webb said dismissively. "Probably a homeless vet or a junkie. Protocol dictates we prioritize triage based on available resources. Mr. Caldwell is a priority patient. His father is a priority donor. A wrist sprain is not a priority over a dying man," Maya screamed, her professional composure shattering. Stepping in front of Webb, blocking his path. "This is abandonment. It's malpractice. It's murder." Victoria Hart stepped forward, her face twisted in a sneer, cold eyes narrowing. "It is an administrative order, Nurse Chen. Move aside or you will regret it. This is not a request. This is your job. Follow orders or find another hospital to work at. If any hospital will take you after I'm done." The monitor behind Maya began to blare a flatline tone. That sound, that awful, continuous tone that meant a heart had stopped beating. The John Doe's heart had stopped. Again, third time, each time harder to bring back, each time closer to permanent. Maya looked at the flat line. While the green line stretched flat across the black screen, she looked at Webb walking away, his back already turned. She looked at Victoria's smug face. Satisfied, victorious. The administrator had won. "No," Maya said. The word quiet, steady, final. "Excuse me?" Victoria blinked, surprise flickering across her face. Nurses didn't say no. Nurses followed orders. Maya grabbed the scalpel Webb had dropped. Her hand closed around the cold metal handle. Steady. Sure, her training screaming at her to stop. Her conscience screaming at her to continue. I said no. The silence in trauma, one was heavier than the lead aprons in radiology. Even the rhythmic beep of the flatline monitor seemed to hesitate, as if the machine itself was shocked by what it was witnessing. "What do you think you're doing?" Victoria Hart hissed, and her voice dropping to a dangerous octave, the kind of voice that ended careers. that destroyed lives with a single phone call. Maya ignored her. She didn't look at the administrator. She didn't look at the cowardly doctor retreating towards the VIP with the tennis injury. Her entire world narrowed down to the man dying on the table in front of her. Everything else fell away. The politics, the threats, the consequences, none of it mattered. Only the flat line. Only the stopped heart. Only the seconds ticking away. "Jordan!" Maya barked. The young nurse jumped, eyes wide with terror. "Take over compressions. Don't stop until I tell you." "But Dr. Webb left," Jordan stammered, his voice shaking. "He's supposed to be here. We can't do this without an attending. We're not authorized." "I don't care if the Pope left," Maya snapped. "Compress!" Jordan scrambled onto the stool, positioned his hands on the patient's chest, began pumping. 1, 2, 3, 4, keeping the rhythm, keeping the blood moving, keeping hope alive. Maya grabbed the betadine bottle. The brown liquid sloshed inside. She splashed it over the man's ribs, the antiseptic spreading across pale, bruised skin, staining it rust-colored. She knew she was crossing a line drawn in medical school, a line reinforced in every nursing orientation, a line that separated nurses from doctors, protocol from chaos. Nurses did not perform surgical procedures. It was the golden rule. The one rule you never broke. Not for any reason, not under any circumstances. If she cut this man, she was ending her career. 8 years of training, 12 years of experience, her nursing license, her livelihood, her identity, out everything she'd worked for, everything she'd sacrificed for, gone in a single scalpel stroke. But if she didn't, his life ended. It wasn't a choice. "Security!" Victoria shrieked, her voice cracking with fury. "Get her out of here, now!" Maya made the incision. Clean, precise, the scalpel sliding through skin like butter, just like she'd seen it done 100 times, just like she'd studied in textbooks, just like she'd practiced in her mind during every chest tube placement she'd ever witnessed. The training kicked in, muscle memory, instinct. Years of watching became years of knowing. "Security, remove her!" Victoria screamed again. 2 guards stepped forward, hesitant, uncertain. They'd never removed a nurse from a trauma bay before, never interrupted a medical procedure. "After he's stable," Maya said, not looking up, hands steady, focused, sliding the tube between ribs, feeling for the space, the pleural cavity, where air had built up, where pressure had collapsed the lung, where death was waiting. The guards stopped, looked at Victoria, looked at the dying man, looked at each other. One of them, an older man named Torres who'd worked security for 23 years, shook his head. "Not while she's working, not while someone's dying." Victoria's face turned purple, rage boiling over. "You're all fired, every single one of you!" Jordan kept compressing, his arms burning, sweat dripping down his face, terrified but committed. Maya felt the tube slide into place, heard the rush of air escaping, decompression, the collapsed lung beginning to reinflate. The pressure releasing, but the heart was still flat, still stopped, still gone. "Clear!" Maya shouted.
She grabbed the defibrillator paddles, charged them, the whine of capacitors building, 300 joules. She pressed them to the man's chest. Everyone stepped back. The body jerked, arched, fell back. The monitor showed a blip, a single beat, then flat again. Nothing. Again! Maya charged the paddles. 360, maximum. She shocked him again, the body convulsed, muscles spasming, and then a beep, another beep, a third. Irregular, weak, but there, a heartbeat, a rhythm, life returning. "I've got a pulse!" Jordan shouted, checking the carotid artery. "Weak, but present." "Maya Chen," a voice said from the doorway, calm, steady, authoritative. Maya looked up. Standing there, scrubs on, eyes assessing the scene, was senior nurse Sarah Reeves, 48 years old, 25 years of emergency medicine experience.
She'd worked with Maya since Maya's first day at Metro General, had taught her half of what she knew, had been like a mentor, a friend, a sister. Sarah looked at Victoria, at the security guards, at Webb hovering in the background, with Ethan Caldwell, at the John Doe on the table, at the chest tube Maya had just placed, at the monitor showing a heartbeat. Then she walked to the sink, scrubbed her hands, pulled on gloves, took position opposite Maya without a single word. "I'll help," Sarah said quietly. Her voice matter-of-fact. Professional. "Write me up after he lives," Victoria sputtered. "Reeves, you are suspended effective immediately. You understand what you're doing?" "I understand I'm saving a life," Sarah replied, her eyes never leaving the patient. "Which is what we're supposed to do, what we took an oath to do. Maya, what do you need?" "Or monitor his BP," Maya said, gratitude flooding through her. She wasn't alone anymore. "Watch for bleeding. This is going to get messy." The procedure took 17 minutes. 17 minutes that felt like 17 hours. Maya's arms burned. Sweat dripped into her eyes. The scalpel felt like it weighed 10 pounds. Jordan kept compressing, kept the blood flowing, kept the oxygen moving. Sarah called out vitals, watched the monitor, handed Maya instruments, anticipated every need. The patient coded twice more. The heart stopped, the monitor flatlined. Each time they brought him back. Defibrillation, epinephrine, compressions, shock, again and again, fighting death, refusing to let it win. Victoria stood in the corner, face purple with rage, phone pressed to her ear, making calls, probably to the hospital board, to the senator, to lawyers, on building the case, documenting the insubordination, the protocol violations, the career-ending mistakes. Webb had disappeared. Taken Ethan Caldwell to a treatment room, left the trauma bay, left his patient, left his oath behind. Finally, gloriously, the monitor beeped steady, regular, strong, sinus rhythm, normal, the heart beating on its own, not shocked, not forced, just beating. The way hearts are supposed to beat. The blood pressure climbed, 70 over 40, 80 over 50, 90 over 60, rising, stabilizing. The oxygen saturation improved, 75%, 80, 85, 90. The numbers turning from red to yellow to green on the screen. The patient took a breath. On his own. The ventilator assisting but not doing all the work anymore. His chest rose, fell, rose again. With the sound of air moving through the chest tube, the lung re-inflating, expanding, working. Maya stepped back, her hands shaking, her whole body trembling. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She'd saved him, this stranger, this John Doe, this man nobody wanted. This man the hospital had been willing to let die for politics, for money, for connections. "He's alive," Maya whispered, the words barely audible. "He's alive." Jordan collapsed onto a stool, his arms dead, his scrubs soaked with sweat. Sarah put a hand on Maya's shoulder, squeezed, a gesture of solidarity, of respect, of understanding. They both knew what was coming next. They both knew the price they'd pay. Victoria stepped forward, her face a mask of cold fury. "You're done," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "Maya Chen, you are terminated effective immediately."
Effective this second. Sarah Reeves, you are terminated. Jordan Park, you are terminated. Security, escort them out. All three of them, now. Torres, the older security guard, looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, they just saved that man's life." "I don't care if they raised him from the dead," Victoria snapped. "They violated hospital protocol. They disobeyed direct orders from administration. They performed unauthorized medical procedures. They are a liability, a lawsuit waiting to happen. Get them out of my hospital before I have them arrested for assault." Maya pulled off her gloves, hands still shaking from adrenaline, from exhaustion, from the weight of what she'd just done. "He's alive," she said quietly, calmly, "while you protected political interests." That John Doe, Victoria hissed, stepping close enough that Maya could smell her expensive perfume mixed with coffee breath could sue us into bankruptcy if he wakes up with complications. You didn't just risk your license, Chen. You risked this entire institution. You risked every patient in this building. You risked jobs, funding, our reputation. He has a name, Maya said, even though she didn't know it yet. He's not a lawsuit. He's not a liability. He's a person, a human being who deserved a chance to live. Not anymore, he's not, Victoria said coldly. He's evidence. Evidence of your gross misconduct. Evidence that will be presented to the nursing board, to the police, to anyone who will listen. You're finished in this city, in this state. I'll make sure every hospital from here to California knows your name, knows what you did. Maya looked at Jordan.
Hunt eyes wide with shock. His career hadn't even started yet, and it was already over. At Sarah, jaw tight with anger, but silent, accepting the consequences. At the patient, breathing, stable, alive, the monitor showing steady green lines, regular rhythm, normal vitals. Take her, Victoria snapped at the security guards, at all of them. Maya didn't resist. She walked out, head high, back straight, through the trauma bay, past the nurses' station, through the emergency room she'd called home for 12 years. Colleagues watched, some with sympathy, most with relief it wasn't them, most grateful they'd followed orders, most glad they'd chosen job security over moral courage. Her badge was confiscated at the security desk. The plastic ID card she'd worn every shift. Maya Chen, R.N., charge nurse. Trauma. That identity stripped away. Her access keycard, the one that opened the staff entrance, the medication room, the supply closets, taken, her hospital parking permit, removed from her wallet, everything that proved she belonged here, everything that said she was one of them, confiscated. Torres, the security guard, walked her to the exit. He was the one who'd refused to remove her during the procedure, the one whose daughter Maya had treated 3 years ago. Appendicitis, caught it early, saved the girl from a rupture, probably saved her life. For what it's worth, Torres muttered as they reached the door. You did the right thing, Nurse Chen. Tell that to my rent, Maya said with a hollow laugh, to my student loans, to my car payment. Outside, the rain had worsened, the storm intensifying. Maya stood in the parking lot, rain soaking through her scrubs in seconds, outer jacket still inside, in her locker, in the break room she'd never see again. Her car was still in the staff garage. She'd have to come back for it later, after they'd changed the access codes, after they'd revoked her permissions. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Text messages flooding in. Sarah. Worth it. Jordan. I'd do it again. Her mother. What happened? The hospital called me? Her best friend. Are you okay? The news was already spreading through the hospital grapevine, through social media, through the nursing networks. Maya Chen, fired for saving a life, terminated for doing her job, blacklisted for choosing a patient over politics. Maya stood in the rain, watching ambulances come and go, lights flashing red and white against the darkness, lives being saved and lost, the rhythm of the emergency room continuing without her, the machine grinding forward, replacing her already. Someone else at the charge nurse station, someone else making the decisions, someone else who would follow orders. Her career was over. But the John Doe was alive. That had to count for something, right? 6 days after the firing, Maya Chen was officially unemployable. The nursing board had sent a letter, formal investigation pending, license suspended until further notice. Her name flagged in every professional database in the Northeast, every hospital system, every healthcare network, from Boston to Philadelphia, from New York to Washington, D.C. Victoria Hart had made sure of that, had called in favors, had spread the word through administrative channels, had branded Maya as reckless, insubordinate, a liability no institution could afford. Maya sat in her apartment, a third-floor walk-up in Dorchester she'd rented 6 years ago when she thought nursing was her future, when she thought she'd climb the ranks. Maybe become a nurse practitioner, maybe run her own trauma department someday. The apartment was small, 1 bedroom, kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, but it had been hers, her sanctuary after brutal shifts, her place to decompress, to heal, to prepare for the next battle. Now it felt like a prison. Rent was due in 8 days. Her checking account had $847. Her savings account, the one she'd been building for emergencies, had been drained 3 days ago to pay her car payment. Her health insurance, the benefits package from Metro General, had been cut off immediately upon termination. No COBRA offered, no transition period, just gone, like she'd never worked there at all. Her phone kept buzzing. Bill collectors, credit card companies, student loan services, all wanting money she didn't have, all threatening consequences she couldn't prevent. The nursing school loans alone were $90,000, payments of $700 a month that she had no way to make anymore. Her mother had called 14 times, left voicemails that Maya couldn't bring herself to listen to. What would she say? How would she explain? Hey, Mom, remember those 8 years of nursing school and training you helped pay for? Remember how proud you were at my graduation? Well, I threw it all away to save a stranger, a John Doe nobody cared about. And now I'm broke and blacklisted and probably going to lose my apartment. And her friend, Sarah Reeves, had texted. The senior nurse who'd been fired alongside her. The woman who'd stood up when it mattered. I believe in you. Need anything? Coffee, a job reference, a place to crash. Maya hadn't responded. Accepting help felt like admitting defeat, felt like acknowledging that the choice she'd made, the line she'd crossed, had been a mistake. Jordan Park, the young nurse, had sent messages too. They're saying I'll never work in healthcare again. Was it worth it? I keep asking myself. I think it was. I hope it was. Maya had stared at that message for 20 minutes. This kid's career hadn't even started yet, and it was already destroyed because he'd followed her lead, because he'd trusted her judgment, because he'd been brave when he should have been smart. Maya stared at the television. Like the news was covering something else now, some celebrity scandal, some political controversy. The world had moved on. Nobody remembered the nurse who'd broken the rules at Metro General. Nobody cared about the moral stand she'd taken. Nobody was writing articles about healthcare corruption or administrative malfeasance or patients being abandoned for political donors. The story had lasted exactly 1 news cycle, local coverage for a day, a few tweets, then silence, forgotten, replaced by the next outrage, the next scandal, the next thing to be angry about for 5 minutes before moving on. But Maya remembered. She remembered every detail, the weight of the scalpel in her hand, cold metal, heavier than it should have been, the sound of the flatline tone, that awful continuous beep that meant death was winning, and the feeling when the heart restarted, when the monitor showed that first blip, that first beat, that first sign that life was returning, that she'd done it, that she'd actually saved him. Worth it? She wanted to say yes, wanted to believe that saving one life justified destroying her own. But sitting here in her apartment, broke, blacklisted, alone, staring at eviction notices and collection letters and a future that looked increasingly dark, it was hard to hold on to that certainty. Her laptop pinged, email notification. Maya almost didn't check it. Probably another automated rejection from a job she'd applied to. Or another bill? Or another reminder that her professional life was over, but something made her look. The sender was an encrypted address, a string of random numbers and letters, no name, no organization. The subject line read, "The John Doe from Metro General Hospital." Maya's breath caught. Her hand trembled as she moved the mouse. Clicked. The email opened. "Maya Chen, you saved my life. I can't tell you who I am yet. It's not safe. But I need you to know what happened at Metro General wasn't random. It wasn't politics. It wasn't about hospital donors or administrative pressure or budget concerns. It was attempted murder, and you're in danger. Don't trust anyone. Don't contact the police. Don't go to the hospital. Don't try to investigate this on your own. The people who tried to kill me know who you are. They know what you did. They know you're a witness, a problem, a loose end. I'll reach out again when it's safe, when I can explain everything, when I can protect you. Thank you for not letting me die. I thank you for choosing right over easy. Thank you for being the kind of person the world desperately needs but rarely deserves. Stay safe. R.F. Maya read it 3 times, her heart pounding harder with each pass. This was insane, or a prank, or some kind of scam. People didn't send encrypted emails about assassination attempts and conspiracies. That stuff happened in movies, in thrillers, not in real life, not to nurses from Boston who just wanted to save lives and pay their rent. But the details were right. Metro General, the John Doe, the timing. Nobody outside the hospital would know these things. Nobody except someone who'd been there, who'd been on that table, who'd been dying while politics played out overhead. The lights in her apartment flickered, once, twice, then cut out completely. Darkness swallowed the room, the hum of the refrigerator died, the glow of the laptop screen the only light remaining. Maya froze, her breath catching in her throat. This wasn't a normal power outage. The hallway light under her door was out too, the emergency exit signs that were supposed to stay lit always, the whole building, maybe the whole block. In the darkness, she heard something. A sound that didn't belong. Footsteps, on hardwood, in the hallway outside her apartment. Deliberate, slow, professional. Not the shuffling steps of her elderly neighbor, not the quick footfalls of the college students downstairs. These were different, measured, controlled, the footsteps of someone who moved with purpose. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She stood slowly, quietly, moved towards the kitchen, her eyes adjusting to the darkness, till she grabbed a knife from the block on the counter, an 8-inch chef's knife, the biggest one she had. Her hand closed around the handle, gripped tight. The footsteps stopped, right outside her door. She could see the shadow underneath, blocking the faint light from the street. Someone was standing there, waiting, listening. Maya backed towards the couch, taking cover. Her phone was in her pocket. She pulled it out. No signal. The screen showed 1 bar, then none. Then an X, where the carrier name should be. Someone was jamming it. Someone had cut the power and blocked communications and was now standing outside her door. This was real. The email wasn't a prank, wasn't paranoia. This was actually happening. The doorknob moved, testing, checking, the lock was engaged, the deadbolt thrown. But that didn't seem to matter. She heard the sound of metal on metal, picks working the lock, tumblers clicking, the deadbolt sliding back with a soft thunk. The door opened, slowly, carefully. A silhouette filled the frame, large, broad-shouldered, not tall but solid. The build of someone who lifted weights and ran miles and trained for violence. Maya Chen, a man's voice said, deep, southern accent, professional, cold. He knew her name. He'd come for her specifically. "Get out!" Maya said, raising the knife, her hand shaking but her voice steady. "Get out or I'll scream. I'll call the police." The man raised his hands slowly, palms open, showing he wasn't holding a weapon. Not here to hurt you, he said, his voice softer, almost gentle. I'm here to warn you. He stepped inside, just enough that the streetlight caught his face. Older, maybe 50, short grey hair, hard eyes.
Tactical clothing, black jacket, dark pants, boots that barely made a sound. This wasn't some random burglar. This was a professional. I said, "Get out," Maya repeated. But her voice cracked. She backed up another step. "Hit the wall. The John Doe you saved?" the man continued, ignoring her threat. "His real name is Captain Ryan Foster, United States Army, Special Forces, Delta Force operator. What you saw that night, the injuries, the assassination attempt, that wasn't random violence. That wasn't gang activity. That was a hit, an execution." Maya's mind raced. Captain Ryan Foster, RF. The email, the encryption, the warning. This man knew about the John Doe, knew details nobody should know. "Who are you?" Maya demanded. "Colonel Nathan Hayes," the man said. "I'm Ryan's commanding officer, his friend. And right now, he's the only thing standing between you and the people who tried to kill him." Why would anyone try to kill him? Because he discovered something. Evidence of weapons trafficking, military hardware being sold to insurgents, a conspiracy that goes all the way to the Senate, to corporate boardrooms, to people with power and money and absolutely no conscience. What does that have to do with me? "Victoria Hart, the administrator at Metro General," Hayes said, his voice hardening. "She received a deposit of $1.4 million in an offshore account. 2 hours after you were fired, she was paid. Paid to make sure Ryan died on that table. Paid to create the situation with the senator's son. Paid to force the doctor away. Paid to let nature take its course." Maya felt cold, felt sick. "You're saying she was paid to let him die?" "I'm saying you ruined their plan," Hayes replied. "Ryan was supposed to die in that ER. No witnesses, no investigation, no questions. Just another John Doe who didn't make it. But you saved him, which makes you a problem. A witness, someone who can testify that administrative pressure was applied, that the system was manipulated, that it wasn't just bad luck or medical error. It was murder." "This is insane," Maya whispered. "This is real," Hayes said. "And if you want to survive the next 24 hours, you need to come with me, right now." Behind Hayes, in the hallway, more figures appeared. 2, 3, 4, all dressed in black, all armed, all moving with the same professional silence. "Colonel, we have 90 seconds, one of them said, voice urgent, clipped, military. Hostile team is 3 blocks out, 2 vehicles, 6 operators. They're coming for her." Hayes looked back at Maya, his face grim. "So what's it going to be, Nurse Chen? Stay here and die like Ryan was supposed to? Or trust me and live?" Outside, Maya heard the sound of helicopters, distant but getting closer. The distinctive thump of rotor blades cutting through night air. Not police helicopters, not news choppers, something else, something military. She looked at the knife in her hand, at the strangers in black in her hallway, at her laptop, still showing that encrypted email, at the door that was supposed to keep her safe but had been opened like it was made of paper. Then she dropped the knife, grabbed her bag from the couch, her wallet, phone, her keys, everything she could grab in 5 seconds. "Let's go," she said. The team moved fast. Hayes took point. 2 operatives flanked Maya, weapons drawn. Eyes scanning. They moved down the back stairs, fire escape that Maya had never used. The building was silent, every door closed, every light out, like everyone had vanished, like the whole structure had been evacuated. "Did you do that?" Maya asked, breathless, barely keeping up. "Yes," Hayes said. "EMP pulse, localized. Gives us maybe 3 minutes before they realize it's us, and not a system failure." They hit the ground floor, burst out the back exit into an alley. Rain was falling, cold, heavy, soaking through Maya's clothes in seconds. A black SUV was waiting, engine running, armored, windows tinted dark enough to be illegal. "Get in!" Hayes ordered. Shoving Maya into the back seat, two operatives jumped in after her. The door slammed. They were moving before the door fully closed, tires squealing on wet pavement. "Buckle up,"
the driver said. "This is going to get rough." Through the rain-streaked window, Maya saw her apartment building recede. The place she'd called home for 6 years. Then, horror. Two black sedans came around the corner, fast, aggressive, no headlights. They weren't trying to blend in, they were hunting. "Contact," the driver said, confirmed hostile. Gunfire erupted. The sound was shockingly loud, even inside the armored vehicle. Bullets hitting metal, sparks flying. The SUV rocked, but the armor held. Reinforced panels, bulletproof glass. This wasn't a normal vehicle. This was a war machine. "Evasive maneuvers," Hayes barked into his radio. The driver yanked the wheel. Hard left. Maya slammed against her seatbelt. Her stomach lurched. They shot through an intersection. Red light ignored. Horns blaring. They weaved through traffic. Down an alley.
Over a curb, through a parking lot. The pursuing sedans matched every move. One of the operatives was on a tablet. Tracking. Calling out positions. Hostile 1 on our 6. Hostile 2 flanking east. "They're trying to box us in." "Not today," the driver said. She hit the gas. The SUV jumped forward, engine roaring. They blew through a barrier, wooden arm shattering, into a construction zone around concrete barriers. The sedans followed, relentless. Maya realized she was in a war, in an actual firefight, in a high-speed chase through Boston streets, because she'd saved one life, because she'd made one choice, because she'd picked up a scalpel when she should have walked away. The pursuit lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes of terror, of bullets and rain and squealing tires. The driver was incredible, trained, professional.
Or made turns that shouldn't be possible. Navigated obstacles like she'd memorized the route. Finally, they dove into an underground parking garage, the entrance hidden, disguised. A steel door rolled down behind them, sealing, locking, the engine cut. Silence. Maya's ears rang, her hands shook, her whole body trembled with adrenaline. "You did good," Hayes said, looking back at her, voice softer now, reassuring. "Most civilians panic, scream. You stayed quiet, stayed calm." "Who the hell are you people?" Maya demanded, voice shaking. Hayes looked at her. Then, for the first time, he almost smiled. "We're the ones who keep secrets, who protect assets, who stop bad people from winning. And you, Nurse Chen, just became our most valuable witness." They led Maya through a facility, concrete corridors, high-tech equipment, all armed guards at every checkpoint, biometric scanners, retinal readers. This wasn't a hospital, wasn't a police station. This was something else, something classified, something that officially didn't exist. At the end of a long hallway, Hayes stopped, opened a door. Inside was a medical bay, clean, well-equipped, military-grade, and lying in a bed, looking significantly better than the last time she'd seen him, was the John Doe. His beard had been trimmed, his face was visible now, the swelling reduced, the bruises faded to yellow and green. His eyes opened as she entered, steel grey, sharp, intelligent, alert, and under all the injuries, under the trauma and the damage, Maya could see what she'd missed in the ER. This man was striking, handsome in a rough military way, strong jaw, straight nose, scars that told stories. Now he looked like someone who'd seen combat, who'd survived things that would break other men, who'd fought and bled and kept fighting anyway. "Maya Chen," he said, his voice rough but warm, deeper than she expected. She felt something flutter in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in years. Something inappropriate given the circumstances, but undeniable. "You're the John Doe," she said. Stupid, obvious, but her brain wasn't working right. Adrenaline crash, exhaustion, fear, attraction. "I'm Captain Ryan Foster," he said, "and I owe you my life. They sat in a secure briefing room, concrete walls, no windows, soundproofed, the kind of room where secrets were shared and decisions were made that would never appear in any official record. Colonel Hayes pulled up files on large screens that covered one entire wall, digital documents, photographs, or bank records, the evidence of something terrible. Captain Ryan Foster is a 12-year veteran of the United States Army, Hayes began, his voice formal now, presenting facts, Special Forces, Delta Force operator, the best of the best. He's conducted over 80 missions in 15 countries, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, places most Americans couldn't find on a map, places where wars were fought in shadows. Maya listened, her eyes fixed on the man in the hospital bed. Ryan, not the John Doe anymore, not the nameless victim, a person, a soldier, a man with a history and a purpose and a reason someone wanted him dead. 6 months ago, Hayes continued, Ryan was deployed to Afghanistan on a covert operation. Intelligence suggested a weapons smuggling ring operating in the Kandahar province, US. Military hardware disappearing from supply depots, showing up in insurgent hands, M4 rifles, Stinger missiles, night vision equipment, armor-piercing ammunition, enough firepower to change the balance of power in the region. The screen showed images, shipping manifests, bills of lading, container numbers, dates and locations forming a pattern, a trail. Ryan's mission was surveillance, Hayes said. Track the weapons, identify the buyers, find out who was selling American technology to America's enemies. What he found was bigger than anyone expected. The screen changed. Bank records, wire transfers, amounts that made Maya's breath catch, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, money moving through shell companies, bouncing between accounts in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Delaware, a maze designed to hide the truth. Hey, this isn't just weapons smuggling, Hayes said, his voice hard. This is a $400 million operation, military-grade hardware being sold to insurgent groups, Taliban, ISIS, Al-Qaeda affiliates, groups that use those weapons to kill American soldiers, to destabilize entire regions, to create chaos. Why? Maya asked, her first word since entering the room. Why would anyone do that? Hayes pulled up another document, a corporate filing, a name Maya recognized, Senator Richard Caldwell. Oil, Hayes said simply. Senator Caldwell has investments in 3 petroleum companies operating in Central Asia, companies that profit when regions are unstable, when governments are weak, when Western powers have excuses to maintain military presence. Chaos is good for business. War drives up oil prices, creates opportunities for private contractors, and opens markets that would otherwise be closed. The screen showed more connections. The shell company that purchased the weapons was registered in Delaware, a holding firm called Apex Strategic Holdings. The majority shareholder was a blind trust, managed by Caldwell family attorneys. The paper trail led directly back to the senator. Ryan found this? Maya asked, looking at the man in the bed. All of this? Ryan found the proof, Hayes confirmed. Shipping manifests with Caldwell's signature on authorization forms, bank transfers linking his accounts to the shell companies, communications between his chief of staff and arms dealers in Pakistan. Everything needed to prove conspiracy, treason, enough to end his career and send him to prison for the rest of his life. So they tried to kill him, Maya said, understanding clicking into place. But in Afghanistan, Hayes nodded. Ambush on a supply route. Wasn't Taliban, wasn't ISIS, was a hit team, professional, well-equipped. They knew where Ryan would be, knew his route, knew his schedule. Someone leaked it, someone with access to classified mission details. But he survived, Maya said. Barely, Hayes replied. Took 3 rounds. Blunt force trauma when the vehicle rolled. His team got him out. Medevac to Bagram, then Germany, then back to the States. We kept it quiet. listed him as killed in action, gave him a cover identity, thought we could get him somewhere safe while we built the case. Metro General? Maya said. Metro General, Hayes confirmed, under a false name. No ID, no records. Just another John Doe from a random assault. Should have been safe, should have been invisible. But they found him, Maya said. Victoria Hart, Hayes said, pulling up more financial records. The director of operations at Metro General. She received a deposit of $1.4 million in an offshore account 2 hours after you were fired. Money transferred from a subsidiary of Apex Strategic Holdings, the same shell company Caldwell uses for the weapons deals. She was paid, Maya whispered, paid to let Ryan die. She was paid to create the situation, Hayes corrected, to manufacture the crisis. Ethan Caldwell, the senator's son, wasn't at Metro General for a wrist injury. He was there to confirm the kill. To verify that the John Doe in trauma, one was actually Ryan Foster. The man his father needed, dead. Maya felt sick. The spoiled kid with the tennis injury. The VIP who demanded immediate attention while Ryan was dying. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't hospital politics. That was murder. Premeditated, calculated, cold. When you saved Ryan, Hayes continued, you disrupted their plan. The senator couldn't have Ryan waking up, couldn't have him talking, couldn't have him testifying. So Victoria was supposed to ensure he didn't survive. She created the VIP emergency, pulled the doctor away, put you in an impossible position. You were supposed to follow protocol, supposed to prioritize. The senator's son, supposed to let the John Doe die? But I didn't, Maya said. No, Hayes agreed. You didn't, which makes you a witness, someone who can testify that administrative pressure was applied, that the situation was manufactured, that it wasn't just medical error or bad luck, it was attempted murder. So we expose them, Maya said. We take this evidence to the FBI, to the Justice Department, to Congress. Hayes' expression darkened. The FBI director is having dinner at Senator Caldwell's estate tonight. They're friends, golf buddies. The director's daughter works for one of Caldwell's companies. The corruption goes deeper than you think, wider than you imagine. If we hand this over through official channels, the evidence disappears. Witnesses die in accidents, files get lost, and we all end up in body bags after a tragic training incident. So what do? Maya asked. We go on offense, Hayes said. We hit them before they hit us. The physical server linking Caldwell to the shell companies is in his private estate. In his library, a personal computer he uses for his offshore accounts, not connected to any network, not backed up to the cloud. He's paranoid about surveillance, keeps everything local. That server is the smoking gun. Hard evidence that can't be deleted remotely or explained away. You're going to break into a senator's estate, Maya said. That's insane. We're going tonight, Hayes confirmed. Small team, 6 operators, in and out in 20 minutes. Grab the server, get the evidence, then we take it to someone we trust. A federal prosecutor in New York who hates corruption more than he loves his career. Ryan sat up straighter, winced as his injuries protested. I'm going. No, Hayes said flatly. You're not. Colonel, I can help. I can provide overwatch. Drive. Something. Maya cut in, her nurse voice returning. The voice that brooked no argument. You're not cleared. Those sutures are barely holding. Your femoral artery was nicked. If you rupture it again, you'll bleed out in minutes. Even with a trauma team standing by, you'd have maybe a 50% chance. Out in the field, you're dead. Ryan looked at her, frustration and respect warring in his grey eyes. I can't just sit here. Yes, you can, Hayes said. You're the primary witness, the only person who can testify to what happened in Afghanistan, what you saw, what you found. If you die, the case dies with you. You stay here. That's an order. Maya stays with you, Hayes continued, looking at her. This location is secure, hardened. We're leaving 2 men on perimeter patrol. You'll be safe. I'm not a babysitter, Ryan muttered. You're the asset, Hayes said firmly. Maya, keep him down, sedate him if you have to. The team began preparing, weapons checked, ammunition loaded, body armor adjusted, tactical gear distributed. Hayes moved through his operators like a conductor leading an orchestra.
And every movement precise, every order clear. These men had trained together, fought together, trusted each other with their lives. 10 minutes later, they loaded into black SUV's engine sounds echoing in the underground garage. Hayes gave Maya a last look. Heavy steel door. Lock it behind us. Don't open it for anyone except me. Anyone? Clear, clear, Maya confirmed. The vehicles pulled out, disappeared up the ramp. The steel door rolled down, sealing. The sound of the locks engaging was final. Permanent. Maya and Ryan were alone. The silence that returned didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the breath held before a scream. Night fell outside. Maya knew because she could see it through the high ventilation slats. The only windows in the bunker, narrow, reinforced. More for air than light. The shadows lengthened, deepened. The room grew darker.
Ryan was at a table, cleaning a handgun, a Sig Sauer P320, the weapon field stripped into components, barrel, slide, spring, frame. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, muscle memory. He reassembled it without looking, each piece clicking into place. You think they'll make it? Maya asked. Breaking the silence, she was making tea, chamomile, from a box she'd found in the small kitchen area. Keeping her hands busy, keeping her mind occupied, better than thinking about armed operators breaking into a senator's estate. Hayes is the best there is, Ryan said, not looking up from the weapon. I've served with him for 8 years, seen him in situations that would break other men. He doesn't fail. But, Maya pressed, she could hear the unspoken word. But Senator Caldwell is desperate, Ryan said. And desperate men are dangerous. They make mistakes, take risks, do things rational people wouldn't consider. When someone's backed into a corner, when they're facing prison or execution or the end of everything they've built, they become unpredictable. Maya brought 2 cups of tea to the table, sat across from Ryan, watched him work. His movements were stiff, painful, but he pushed through it, ignored the discomfort. She recognized that mentality, the soldier's mindset, the refusal to show weakness. Why do you do this? Maya asked. Risk everything. You could have left the military, retired, done something safe. Ryan was quiet for a long moment, his hands stilling on the weapon. If people like me don't fight, then people like Caldwell win, and I've seen what happens when they win. Villages destroyed, families torn apart, children orphaned by weapons sold for profit. Wars extended because someone's making money. I've held dying men in my arms, men who were killed by American hardware sold to insurgents. I can't walk away from that. Maya understood. It was the same reason she'd picked up the scalpel, the same reason she'd defied Victoria Hart, the same reason she'd thrown away her career, not because it was smart, not because it was safe, not because it would advance her future, but because it was right. You're not just a nurse, Ryan said suddenly, looking at her now, eyes intense. You're something more. Most people, they'd have followed orders, kept their head down, protected their career, but you chose differently. Why? Because he was dying, Maya said simply, because walking away would have meant watching someone die who didn't have to. Because I took an oath, or because saving lives isn't something I do, it's something I am. Ryan leaned forward, the space between them shrinking, the air charged with something electric, something dangerous. Maya felt her heart rate increase, felt heat rising in her chest. This was inappropriate. He was recovering. They were in danger. This wasn't the time or place, but his eyes held hers, and she couldn't look away. Maya, Ryan said, his voice softer now. rougher. I need you to know. The lights flickered, once, twice, then died completely. The ventilation system cut out, the hum of electronics falling silent. Darkness swallowed the room, complete, absolute, the kind of darkness that felt solid. Power failure? Maya whispered, her voice small in the blackness. No! Ryan's voice came from right beside her. He'd moved instantly, silently. She hadn't heard him stand. It hadn't heard him cross the space. But he was there, close enough to feel his presence. The generator has a backup, triple redundant, should have kicked on automatically. The lines were cut. Maya heard a sound, metal on metal, the distinctive click-clack of a weapon being racked, a round, chambered, ready to fire. Get down, Ryan commanded, his voice hard. Military, floor, now! Maya dropped to the cold concrete, her heart hammering, her breath coming short. This was happening again. Someone was coming for them. Stay behind the kitchen island, Ryan ordered. Don't move, don't make a sound, no matter what you hear. Outside, the sound of the wind changed, replaced by something else. The crunch of gravel, the heavy thud of boots, multiple boots, not 2 men, not the perimeter guards, many men. Perimeter guards, Maya hissed. Silent, Ryan said.
His voice grim. They're already gone. A voice cut through the heavy steel door, amplified by a megaphone, smooth, arrogant, familiar. A voice Maya had heard before in the trauma bay at Metro General. Captain Foster, Miss Chen, we know you're in there. This is Ethan Caldwell. You have something that belongs to my family, something very important, and I'm here to take it back. Open the door, Ethan Caldwell's voice echoed through the steel. Amplified, distorted, but unmistakable. The spoiled VIP from Metro General, the senator's son who'd clutched his wrist while Ryan died 10 feet away. Now he was here, leading an assault team, hunting them. Dr. Webb isn't here to save you this time, Ethan continued, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. Neither is your colonel. He walked right into our trap. My father sends his regards, Captain Foster.
Aye, and yours too, Nurse Chen. Ryan crouched beside Maya in the darkness. Moonlight filtered through the high ventilation slats, thin beams cutting through the black. His face was stone, jaw set, eyes hard, calculating, assessing every angle, every option, every chance of survival. They watched the house, Ryan said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Waited for Hayes to leave, timed it perfectly. This was planned, coordinated. It's a trap. What do we do? Maya asked, her voice shaking, her hands trembling, fear coursing through her veins like ice water. Ryan pressed something cold and heavy into her hand. The backup pistol, metal still warm from his body heat. Know how to use this? I fired a Glock at a range once, Maya said. Years ago. Birthday party, 15 rounds at a paper target. That was it. That was her entire firearms experience. Point and squeeze, Ryan said. Simple, direct, don't aim. Just point where you want the bullets to go, squeeze the trigger smooth. Don't jerk. I'm going to draw their fire toward the front. You cover the back entrance. Anyone comes through that door who isn't Hayes, you shoot. Don't hesitate. Don't ask questions, just shoot. You can't fight them alone, Maya protested. You're injured. Those sutures won't hold. You'll bleed out. Ryan looked at her. Even in the darkness, she could see his eyes. Steady, calm, unafraid. I'm not alone, he said. His voice soft but certain. I have my nurse. Then the world exploded. The boom was deafening. Breaching charges detonating against the heavy steel door. The sound physical, pounding against eardrums, rattling teeth, shaking the concrete foundation. The door groaned, metal screaming, twisting, tearing, not built to withstand military-grade explosives. Smoke poured in through the breach, thick, acrid, chemical smoke that burned eyes and lungs. Then flashbangs. The grenades tumbled through the gap. hit the floor, detonated, blinding white light, sound that shattered thought. Maya's vision went white. Her ears rang with a single continuous tone that drowned out everything else. Ryan was already moving. She couldn't see him, couldn't hear him, but she felt the displacement of air as he rolled behind cover. Then gunfire, 3 rapid shots, muzzle flashes strobing in the smoke, 2 thuds, bodies hitting concrete, mercenaries falling. Ryan groaned, a sound of pain forced through clenched teeth. His sutures had torn, blood soaking through his shirt, dark patches spreading across his side, and the femoral artery repair failing. Minutes of consciousness left, maybe less. "We can't hold them," Ryan shouted, his voice distorted, distant. Maya's hearing slowly returning through the ringing. More figures poured through the breach. Black tactical gear, night vision goggles, assault rifles, professional, trained, overwhelming force. This wasn't a fair fight. This was an execution. As vision cleared enough to see, the medical cart, still against the wall from when they'd treated Ryan days ago. Supplies scattered across the top. And there, an oxygen tank. Small, portable, used for patients with breathing problems. And next to it, a bottle of rubbing alcohol, 70% isopropyl, highly flammable. A desperate idea formed, insane, dangerous, probably suicidal, but the only chance they had. Maya grabbed the backup pistol Ryan had shoved into her hands earlier, scrambled to the medical cart. Bullets zipped overhead, impacting concrete, throwing sparks. She grabbed the oxygen tank, the alcohol bottle, found surgical tape in a drawer. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold anything. She taped them together, crude, messy, but functional. A bomb, an improvised explosive device, the oxygen under pressure, the alcohol as accelerant. One bullet would turn it into a fireball. Maya stood, threw the device toward the breach. It tumbled end over end, landed in the smoke, right where the mercenaries were advancing. "Shoot it!" Maya screamed. Ryan didn't hesitate, didn't question, didn't ask, just trusted. One shot. Perfect aim even through pain and blood loss and smoke and chaos. The bullet pierced the oxygen tank. The explosion was massive, orange flame erupting like a living thing, the oxygen feeding the fire, the alcohol vaporizing into fuel, a miniature sun blooming in the bunker. The shockwave hit Maya, knocked her backward, slammed her against the wall. Her ears went dead again. Just pressure, just ringing. Mercenaries screamed, burning, dying. The tactical advantage erased in one desperate move. "Move!" Ryan commanded, already on his feet, staggering toward the emergency exit, blood trailing behind him. He grabbed Maya's arm, pulled her up. They ran. The emergency exit opened into night. Torrential rain, cold, violent, sheets of water that made it impossible to see more than a few feet. They scrambled out, into mud, slipping, falling, crawling, making it to the tree line before Ryan's strength gave out. He collapsed, his legs folding, a body crumpling, the blood loss too much, the exertion too great, the injuries too severe. He'd pushed beyond human limits and physics was claiming its due. "Go!" Ryan gasped, his hand releasing Maya's arm. "Get to the trees, find Hayes, tell him everything. You have to survive, you're the witness. Go!" "No," Maya said, the word hard, final. She grabbed him under the arms, hauled him up, her nurse training kicking in. Proper lift technique, use the legs, protect the back. She was smaller than him, weaker, but adrenaline and stubbornness and sheer refusal to accept failure gave her strength she didn't know she had. "I don't leave patients behind," Maya said, dragging him toward cover, toward the deeper woods, toward safety that seemed impossibly far away. Behind them, fire illuminated the bunker, smoke rising into the rain, or shadows moving through the flames, more mercenaries regrouping, pursuing. They made it another 50 feet, into the trees, out of direct sight. Maya lowered Ryan against a trunk. His breathing was labored, shallow, his skin pale. Shock setting in. He was dying. Again. She'd saved him once, fought for him, defied authority, thrown away her career, and now she'd lose him anyway, in the mud and rain and darkness. Then a voice cut through the night. Smooth, arrogant, familiar. Cultured accent made sinister by context. The hero nurse and the broken soldier. Ethan Caldwell stepped from the shadows, not wearing tactical gear like his mercenaries, just an expensive trench coat. Burberry, probably. Tailored. Designer. He looked like he'd stepped out of a fashion magazine, except for the suppressed pistol in his hand, raised, aimed at Ryan's head.
My father sends his regards, Ethan said, finger tightening on the trigger. Maya didn't think, didn't plan, didn't calculate odds or consequences. She just moved, stepped directly in front of Ryan, shielding him with her body, raised the pistol in her trembling hands, aimed at Ethan's chest. "You have to go through me," Maya said. Her voice steady despite the fear, despite the exhaustion, despite knowing she'd probably miss, knowing he'd probably kill them both. Ethan laughed. A sound of genuine amusement, like this was entertaining, like they were performing for him. "Gladly," he said, his finger tightening, the pistol barrel centering on Maya's chest. Point-blank range, impossible to miss. Crack. A single shot rang out. Maya flinched, waiting for the impact, for the pain, for the darkness, her body tensing for the bullet.
But she didn't fall. Ethan looked down, confusion crossing his face, his perfect features twisting, the red bloom spreading across his white shirt, just left of center, right through the heart. His hand loosened, the pistol dropped, fell into the mud. He swayed, mouth opening, no sound coming out. Then his knees buckled. He collapsed forward, face first into the mud, silent, still, dead. Maya spun around. On the ridge above them, barely visible through the rain and trees, Colonel Nathan Hayes lowered a sniper rifle, the scope catching what little light remained. Behind him, figures emerged, dozens of them. FBI tactical gear, federal agents, armed, organized, professional. The cavalry had arrived. Maya dropped to her knees, grabbed Ryan, held him tight, his blood soaking into her clothes, his breath shallow against her neck, but breathing.
Still breathing, still alive. They'd won. The FBI swarmed the compound, federal agents in tactical gear securing the perimeter, medics treating the wounded, crime scene investigators documenting everything, the bunker, the bodies, the evidence of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of government. Ethan Caldwell was dead, the senator's son, the spoiled VIP who demanded attention while Ryan Foster died. Now he was just another body bag, another casualty of his father's greed. Victoria Hart was arrested 2 hours later, pulled from her home in handcuffs, charged with conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, obstruction of justice, the $1.4 million in her offshore account frozen, evidence of her role in the assassination attempt, in the corruption, in the attempt to let Ryan die, Doctor.
And Marcus Webb was arrested the same night, at his apartment in Back Bay, charged with medical abandonment, complicity in attempted murder, professional misconduct, the nephew of a board member, the doctor who'd walked away from a dying man for political favor, his medical license suspended, his career over. Senator Richard Caldwell was arrested at his estate, while Hayes and his team were extracting the server, federal marshals executing a warrant, reading him his rights, the man who'd sold weapons to insurgents, who'd profited from war, who'd tried to have a soldier murdered to protect his crimes, charged with treason, arms trafficking, conspiracy, murder for hire. The evidence was overwhelming: shipping manifests, bank records, communications. The server Hayes had retrieved contained everything: years of illegal deals, millions in bribes, names of co-conspirators, 12 people arrested in total, senators, corporate executives, defense contractors, a conspiracy that had cost American lives for profit. Metro General Hospital was placed under federal investigation. The board members resigned en masse. A new administration installed. Oversight, accountability, reform. The public outcry was massive. News coverage for weeks, congressional hearings, demands for systemic change. The nursing board called Maya 3 weeks later, full exoneration, her license restored without conditions, formal apology issued, commendation for extraordinary courage and professional integrity. They wanted to make her an example, a symbol of what nursing should be. Metro General's new director called personally, offered her job back, full back pay for the time she'd been terminated.
Promotion to Director of Emergency Services, raise, benefits, apology. They wanted her back, needed her back. The media was calling her a hero. The nurse who'd stood up to corruption, who'd saved a life when the system tried to let him die. But Maya stood outside Metro General 3 weeks after the siege, looking at the building, the emergency bay doors, the place she'd called home for 12 years. She could go back, resume her old life, pretend nothing had changed. Her phone buzzed. Text message from Ryan. Coffee? Faneuil Hall, 2 p.m. if you want. No pressure. Maya smiled, looked at the hospital one more time. The ambulances coming and going, the life she used to have, the person she used to be. Then she turned away. Faneuil Hall in Boston was crowded, tourists and locals mixing, street performers and food vendors.
The smell of coffee and fresh bread. Maya found Ryan waiting at a small cafe table. He looked different. Healed now, healthy, whole, no hospital gown, no bandages, just casual clothes, jeans, Henley shirt, leather jacket. He stood when he saw her approaching, smiled. "You came," Ryan said. "Always," Maya replied. They walked together, through the marketplace, out toward the waterfront, the harbor spreading grey and endless, boats bobbing, seagulls crying overhead. "Did you take the job?" Ryan asked. "Metro General's offer." Maya shook her head. "I took a different position. With a military medical consulting firm, they help veterans transition, PTSD treatment, physical therapy, career counseling. It's more meaningful, more personal, helping people who've served, who've sacrificed, like you." "That sounds perfect," Ryan said, his voice warm. "I'd realized something," Maya continued. "I don't want to go back to what was. I want to move forward, with purpose, with meaning, with me?" Ryan asked quietly, stopping, turning to face her. Maya looked at him. This man she'd saved, this soldier who'd fought for what was right, who'd risked everything to expose corruption, who'd trusted her, protected her, believed in her. "With you," Maya confirmed. Ryan kissed her. Gentle, perfect, tender, his hand cradling her face, her arms wrapping around him. The kiss deepened, unhurried, full of promise, full of future. Rain started to fall, light drops at first, then heavier Boston rain, cold, persistent, but this time it didn't feel oppressive. It felt like washing clean, like baptism, like rebirth, a new beginning. They pulled apart, foreheads touching, both smiling, both soaked, both free.
Ready for this?" Ryan asked. "Ready for what?" "Everything. Together. The future. Whatever comes." Maya laughed, a sound of pure joy, pure hope. "Always," she said. And that is the story of Maya Chen, the nurse who refused to let a hero die, and in doing so became a hero herself. It reminds us that sometimes the bravest warriors don't carry guns. They carry stethoscopes and a refusal to back down in the face of injustice. Maya lost her job, her home, her reputation, but she never lost her integrity, and in the end she found a love and a purpose worth fighting for. Captain Ryan Foster recovered fully. The evidence he gathered led to the conviction of Senator Caldwell and 12 co-conspirators. And Maya, She found her calling helping veterans like Ryan transition home. But more than that, she proved that one person, one choice, one moment of courage can change everything. If this story touched your heart or made your pulse race, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Do you think you would have had the courage to stand up to hospital administration like Maya did? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more stories about real-life heroes, justice, and romance, make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. Thanks for watching.